Whenever extended drought occurs and water use is restricted, homeowners become concerned about the survival of their trees, ornamental shrubs, flowers, gardens, and lawns. Not only does limited water threaten their survival, but water-stressed plants are more susceptible to insects, diseases, and winter kill than healthy plants. Grass that has died from drought can be identified by its appearance. In this picture, you can see dead grass that has turned a very light tan or almost a bleached color compared to the dormant grass that is still alive but shows an evident green. During hot, dry weather, brown needle tips may develop on evergreen trees and be an indication that the trees are using water or losing water faster than it can be replaced. If a supplemental water is not provided, this can advance to the point where the entire tree is affected and may die. Leaf scorch in deciduous trees increases during drought and is made more severe by above average temperatures and windy conditions. Trees most susceptible to leaf scorch include newly planted trees, trees with poorly developed root systems, those with trunk damage or stem girdling roots, and broadleaf evergreens or poorly sited yews and arborvitae. Trees can also be more susceptible to leaf scorch due to reflected heat from hard surfaces such as driveways or streets. Under very dry conditions, other plants in the garden can be affected, such as this hosta, which is showing leaf scorching due to dry conditions. If turf grass has died, it will need to be reseeded this spring to reestablish the area. As soon as the soil is workable, plan to aerate heavily and overseed these areas. For more information on reestablishing turf grass, take a look at these UNL Extension publications. Be very patient when evaluating the extent of damage in trees and shrubs. This small globe spruce does have significant needle loss, and it would appear that some of the twigs are dead, but pruning them all off now could remove branches that are still alive and could put on new growth in a few weeks. If you're unsure whether a plant is alive or dead, wait until new growth begins at the end of April and into May. If the plant does not produce any new growth, then it should be removed and replaced. Use the same level of caution when deciding to prune out branches which appear to have damage. They may have lost leaves or needles, but there could be dormant buds which are still viable and may put on new growth this year if given enough time. A lawn is a large part of any landscape, but how much water does a lawn need? Kentucky bluegrass is more drought tolerant than most homeowners suspect, so requires infrequent irrigation. Generally, 2 1/2-inch applications of water during dry periods are sufficient. During extremely dry periods, Kentucky bluegrass can be allowed to go dormant. Once the grass is dormant, keep it alive by applying 1/4 inch of water every 4 to 5 weeks to hydrate plant crowns. Also keep in mind that bluegrass that is in poor health to begin with may not fully survive extended dormancy periods due to the additional stress. Vigorous bluegrass that has a healthy root system and few, if any, existing insect or disease problems will come out of dormancy in much better condition than a weak stand of turf. Tall fescue is deep-rooted, so likely will not require frequent irrigation, if at all, during a summer with normal precipitation. Avoid overwatering tall fescue. It does not require as much water as bluegrass. One way to tell if your lawn needs irrigation is to walk through it. If you can still see your footprints in the lawn several minutes later, at least 10 to 15 minutes, that means the plants don't have enough water to hold the leaf blades upright, and it's time to irrigate. If you don't know how much water your irrigation system puts out, then do a test. Take several cat food cans or tuna cans and place them throughout the area to be irrigated. Then run the system for a certain amount of time, for example 20 minutes. Once the irrigation is done, measure the amount of water in the cans and average it out. That will tell you about how much water your system is applying. Make adjustments as needed so that you're applying about 1/2 inch of water at each application. Learn how to operate your irrigation system so that you can turn it off and on, adjust the days of week that you're watering, and the length of time that each zone is watered. This will ensure that your system is running only when necessary and applying the amounts of water needed. The best time to irrigate with an overhead sprinkler is early in the morning. Winds are usually calm and less water evaporates at that time of day. Plus, plant foliage has all day to dry before nightfall, which helps keep disease at a minimum. The worst time of day to water when making overhead applications is 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on sunny days. Rapid evaporation of water and frequent high winds make midday irrigation less effective. Trees need about 1 inch of water per week, either through rain or irrigation. Young trees that have been planted only 1 to 3 years should be watered about every 7 to 10 days. More established trees that have been in the landscape for more than 5 years can be watered about every 2 to 3 weeks. Apply water in the area from the trunk to the drip line of the trees and several feet beyond to provide all the water-absorbing roots with a good amount of moisture. When irrigating, water the trees deeply, with the goal to moisten the top 12 to 18 inches of the soil, where a majority of the tree's water-absorbing roots are located. Measure this depth by using a long-bladed screwdriver. Push it into the ground until you feel resistance, and that will give you an indication of how deeply you have moistened the soil. Drip irrigation is one of the best ways to water trees, shrubs, and gardens. Soaker hoses and trickle or drip systems apply water slowly to plant roots, minimizing water evaporation and runoff. Water use can be decreased by 60% or more. Inspect irrigation systems at the beginning of each season and periodically throughout the year to make sure that all the equipment and irrigation heads are functioning properly. Make adjustments as necessary to irrigation heads that are applying water to hard surfaces, such as driveways, sidewalks, or streets. This will prevent water runoff, which is a waste, and which also carries with it fertilizers and pesticides from the landscape. Here are a few more landscape management practices that you can try to conserve soil moisture in your landscape and prevent additional drought damage in future years. Separate trees, shrubs, and ornamentals from turf by putting them into planting beds, creating groups of plants that have the same sun and watering requirements. This allows you to tailor your water and fertilization practices for each type of plant. Apply a 2 to 3 inch layer of organic mulch beneath woody plants to help conserve soil moisture. Apply a minimum radius of 1.5 to 2 feet from the plant's trunk using organic mulch products such as bark chips, shredded hardwood, or pine straw. Landscape runoff often carries fertilizers and pesticides with it, going into storm drains and causing pollution in nearby surface water bodies, creeks, lakes, and streams. Consider installing a rain garden to collect and utilize landscape water runoff from downspouts or hard surfaces like sidewalks and driveways. Finally, harvest rainwater through the use of rain barrels. Harvested water can be used on the landscape as needed.